Good afternoon, and welcome to the Western Energy Markets Governing Body General Session. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded, and all attendee lines are currently muted at this time. There will be opportunity for public comment throughout today's call, and we will provide you all with instructions on how to enter the comment queue at that time. With that, I'd now like to formally begin today's call and turn it over to Chair Rebecca Wagner. Please go ahead.
Silas, welcome everyone to a virtual meeting of the Western Energy Market Governing Body, our general session. I was trying to think of something clever and pithy to say about our agenda meeting today. And I see that Roger finds that funny because he's not on mute. Um, but um, I
I found it ambitious. It's always hard to find the clever and meaningful thing, but if anyone can do it, you can. I'm going on mute now.
Okay, thanks, Roger. I like our agenda today. It's kind of a low stress, good news, take a moment. We're moving forward, especially compared to our July agenda, which was a lot. But with that said, it doesn't mean that there's not a lot going on. The ISO started the market simulation last week. That is going. That's an amazing process. I'm learning so much by getting briefings on how that's going. It's very exciting as we move towards go live next year. Our policy initiatives are back on track after a little bit of a hiatus due to the work on the congestion revenue rights. Today we'll hear from the Pathways Initiative. Have been very, very busy, both with advancing the initiative and the work of the formation committee, but also leading the charge with a coalition of amazing folks who are working on SB 540 in the California legislature. So I'm not going to spend much more time on that. I do want to note that we're changing up our programming a little bit in this meeting, and rather than having a in detailed policy initiative update, you can find that information in the informational report section of the agenda. And so what we're going to do instead is just what we're calling policy hot topics. What are the key topical items that are rising to the top for ISO management, and most importantly with stakeholders? So we'll see that a little bit different presentation of our policy initiatives, and hopefully a little more streamlined and informative in terms of really what's on the radar and what's rising to the top. With that, I will stop talking and turn it over to our corporate secretary, Roger Collington, to do our roll call.
Thank you, Chair Wagner, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Chair Wagner.
Here.
Vice Chair Campbell.
Here.
Member Decker.
Here.
Member Konzioka.
Here.
Member Smith.
Here.
Thank you, governing body members. We have a quorum, all present, and we can proceed. And I'll just note the next item on here is for me as well, which is to just explain the public comment process, which is, I think we have pretty much dialed in at this point, that our operator, Silas, will, at the appropriate time when we're seeking public comment, will ask folks, the virtual attendees, to raise hands in Zoom, and will provide instructions on how to enter the queue. Back to you, Chair Wagner.
Thanks, Roger. And just to note, and as a reminder to stakeholders on the phone, we have public comment enabled on just about every agenda item, and we encourage you to share thoughts, positive, negative, constructive, and this is a great opportunity to tell us what you're thinking. So just a reminder, the stakeholder process is important, and we want to hear from you, whether it's in a general session like this or otherwise. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Silas to provide the instructions for entering the comment queue.
If you would like to speak under public comment, you can please press the raise hand icon at the bottom center of your Zoom screen. If you are dialed into the phone only line, you may press #2 on your telephone keypad if you would like to make a comment. At this time, there are no hands up in the comment queue.
So my pitch didn't work, but that's okay. Maybe on another item. Let's go ahead and move to the next agenda item, which is a decision on the July 22nd, 2025 general session minutes. Roger?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wagner. Can I have a motion to approve the July 22nd, 2025 WEM governing body general session minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I only heard two ayes there. Okay, any opposed? Okay, that means it's 5-0 and the motion passes. And back to you, Chair Wagner.
Thanks, Roger. Next up, the CEO report. I'll turn it over to Elliot to walk us through the latest and greatest.
Thank you very much, Chair Wagner and members of the WM governing body. It is great to see all of you. Been looking forward to today's meeting. Great agenda, lots, as you mentioned, lots of good positive progress to report out on. Obviously, for us at the CAISO, we're always, reliability is always job number one. We are very fortunate to have turned the corner from Labor Day. We're into the last couple of weeks of the official summer season. And so far, I think grid operations across the West this year have gone really quite well. It's been a reasonably moderate summer overall. There have been some periods of extreme heat in certain parts of the region, but I would say the grid has been bigger than the weather, and in general, we've done well. The peak day of the summer so far was back on August 21st. Both California peaked at 44.5 and the West peaked at 163,590, so below the historical average, but definitely some indications of load growth, but the grid has performed well. We have seen the Western energy imbalance market do its job very effectively in cycling power across the region and generally helping folks work through what I think generally been pretty benevolent conditions. I will note, however, that it has been a very active fire season. And I know the RC has been closely monitoring lots of fires across the West. We've done a lot of coordination. And I think in general, the bulk grid has proved quite resilient. So we will continue to stay vigilant through the balance of September and into October, but generally feeling like a good solid summer of resource adequacy for the region. Of course, as you mentioned, Chair Wagner, it's been a very consequential and positive couple of weeks here on the extended day-ahead market front. We were, of course, very pleased back on August 29th to receive 3 simultaneous rulings from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The first, of course, was the approval of our revised congestion revenue allocation methodology. FERC also approved the extended day-ahead market participation tariffs for both Pacific Core and Portland General. I think these were very important rulings, very solid endorsements of the fundamental market design of the extended day-ahead market. Very pleased to see that, and of course, really provides just great tailwind as we move towards implementation. And that really remains just a central focus for us. We really continue to move full speed ahead on EDAM, making really solid progress on both the day-ahead market enhancements and the extended day-ahead market, both are which on track to launch next May. So spring 2026 is the target. A couple of things I wanted to pull out just to describe in a little bit more detail, because I think they've been very important. First of all, we've had the successful delivery of 2 very well-attended training sessions. We've hosted a series of implementation workshops, and of course, as was mentioned earlier, the start of market simulation here in early September, which is really exciting. The 2 training sessions that we conducted last month had as much as 500 scheduling coordinators, market participants, and stakeholders attending these sessions. That's just fabulous attendance. The first session focused on the ISO's Balancing Authority participation rules for market-related processes, and the second session focused on settlements. A lot of detail there. And these training sessions really, I think, a very significant step in preparing stakeholders for these upcoming changes with more targeted training, of course, planned in the months ahead. It's been great to make use of our new training facilities on the first floor of our Folsom building, and appreciate everybody that also tuned in virtually. Great participation. Of course, as you know, we also hosted two very well-attended EDAM implementation workshops that are aimed at providing participants with some of the really important information on the implementation details that align with the day-ahead market enhancements and EDAM policy, tariff provisions, and the business requirement specifications. So really getting down into the nitty-gritty detail here. The first workshop focused on intertime modeling, as well as how the day-ahead market is going to align with congestion revenue rights mechanisms. And I think the August implementation workshop in particular discussed how congestion revenue rights will be settled relative to congestion revenue collected by the CAISO balancing area for constraints outside of the CAISO balancing area. And this is an important topic, and as we continue working through the EDM implementation details and address the various issues that are raised by stakeholders, I just wanted to offer again our commitment to really working closely with stakeholders in a very transparent and collaborative fashion on the best implementation approach. The devil is in the details, and we just definitely really appreciate all the feedback we received. And we're going to be further discussing this topic as part of our ongoing congestion revenue rights enhancements working groups across the balance of the year. And just again, thank everybody for the feedback and rolling up their sleeves as we dot I's and cross T's. So thanks again. It was wonderful to get the feedback from Khaled Abdulrahman back on September 2nd when we launched our EDAM market simulation. This is the culmination of just an unbelievable amount of work in recent months. And being able to finally start simulating key initiatives such as the day ahead and extended day market enhancements and the balancing authority participation rules is really exciting. It's just very tangible progress towards next spring. We've had 15 EDAM market simulation scenarios ready in nearly 50 organizations and 240 participants pre-registered. And again, just hats off and thanks to all of our market participants and all of our partners. And particularly, I really want to thank the CAISO staff who are just working so hard with our partners at Siemens and others in OAD to get this thing done. I will just close with one additional final piece of good news. I think you saw back on July 31st, the second quarter benefits report for the Western Energy Imbalance Market were released. Q2 delivered another $420 million in financial benefits for market participants and their customers, pushing the cumulative benefits generated by the WEIM now to $7.4 billion. And of course, as we always like to note, those are the tangible financial benefits, and we continue to see, as we did this summer, just the tremendous reliability and collaborative benefits of that big footprint in that great market. So really excited to be where we are at this point. Everybody's super motivated, super energized to keep moving towards next spring. And of course, we are all looking forward to hearing the continued progress on the governance front as well. So thank you. And Chair Wagner, that concludes my report.
Thanks, Elliot. I appreciate the update and want to, on behalf of the governing body, just acknowledge the hard work that your team is putting in. There's so many moving pieces, and we're appreciative of all that everyone's doing above and beyond what we can even imagine from our vantage point.
Well, thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Next, we're going to turn to an update from the body of state regulators. With us today, we have Chair Gabriel Aguilera from the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission to let us know what is happening there. Oh, there you are. I was looking for my Hollywood square. Welcome, Chair. You can take it away.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wagner, Vice Chair Campbell, and members of the governing body. And thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on recent activities, things that the BOSSR has been up to. So first, we'd like to congratulate the ISO and other entities on the latest FERC orders related to EDAM. BOSSR recognizes that there was a lot of time and effort required from parties and that these orders come at a critical time as the ISO marches forward towards EDAM implementation. Since the last report in June, the BOSSER has focused on a few matters. The first is the developments taking place in the Greenhouse Gas Coordination Working Group, specific to the accounting and reporting framework. We invited Anya Gilbert of the ISO to brief the BOSSER on the details of what the report will entail. BOSSER recognizes that some topics, such as null power reporting, continue to be ironed out among stakeholders, but that they will be presenting to you all at your next meeting in October. Second, BOSSER has spent the last couple of months actively engaging in the West-wide Governance Pathways Initiative. You'll hear from the Formation Committee this afternoon about the progress made there. BOSSER has provided advice and input as it relates to the public interest and the RO body of state regulators in the governing documents that are currently out for stakeholder comment. BOSSER has also started to rededicate some of its time on the price formation enhancements initiative that picked back up. We're aware that the ISO is seeking stakeholder comments on a straw proposal for both BAA level market power mitigation as well as scarcity pricing. We're expecting to take a deep dive into those initiatives at some point at our upcoming meetings. And so looking ahead to our upcoming meetings, we've canceled this Friday's BOSSER meeting as BOSSER members will be in Folsom attending an EDAM training the following week. And we're also going to have our in-person meeting in just a few weeks in Portland on Wednesday, October 1st. So we're looking forward to seeing some of you there. We'll have our agenda finalized in the next week or two, and that'll be posted on the WEB's website. So that includes my report for today. And on behalf of the body state regulators, thank you again for your time. Happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Chair Aguilera. Any questions from the governing body? Questions, comments? Excellent. Thanks for the report out. Love to hear what the BOSSER is doing. Always near and dear to my heart. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next up, we don't want to pause this any longer. We're all anxious to hear the latest and greatest from the Pathways Initiative. Today we have members of the Formation Committee here to update the whoops, I skipped Riff. I'm so sorry, Lindsay. Let's I'm just jumping ahead. It's already been a long day. Lindsay Sheckleway from NV Energy is here from the RIF. She is the new chair, and she'll be providing us with an update on what's happening with RIF.
Thank you. And this will be a pretty brief update. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to share an update from the Western Energy Markets Regional Issues Forum. As many of you may be aware, we are entering a new chapter of leadership within the RIF following the departure of our esteemed former chair, Ali Mays. Ali's thoughtful leadership and meaningful contributions have helped shape RIF's direction, and while we will miss her presence, we're excited for the opportunities that lie ahead in her journey. In light of this transition, I will be stepping into the role of RIF chair. And I am pleased to share that Scott Olson of Avangrid will be joining our leadership team as vice chair, bringing valuable insight and energy to our work. Vijay Singh will continue to serve as RIF secretary, ensuring continuity and stability. Additionally, we are delighted to welcome Kavya Niranjan from Renewable Northwest as the new liaison for the public interest subsector. Since the last update at the July 22nd governing body meeting, the RIF has remained focused on advancing the RIF enhancements project. We are still actively collaborating to develop the draft final proposal as we move toward a finalized version. Looking ahead, the RIF is beginning to plan for a fall meeting, which will be held at the CAISO offices in Folsom, California on the afternoon of October 27th. This meeting will include an update on the RIF enhancements project and an educational topic about the upcoming implementation for the day-ahead market enhancements and extended day-ahead market enhancements, which is scheduled to go into effect on May 1, 2026. We look forward to releasing a detailed meeting agenda as we move closer to the meeting date. And this concludes my RIF update. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lindsay, and congratulations on becoming chair.
Thank you.
Whether you wanted to or not. Any questions for Lindsay on RIF items? Andy.
Thank you. Really just a comment to Chair Schleckaway. I mean, just appreciation to the individuals who've been continuing to step up in the RIF as people move and new opportunities present themselves. Other people are kind of stepping right into these roles. So thank you to Lindsay, to Scott for stepping in as vice chair. Also hearing about Kavya representing the public interest sector. There's a lot of work. You guys have a huge agenda these days and really pushing a lot of things forward, especially on the stakeholder process. And of course, your work on the roadmap also has been really valuable. So just thanks to those of you who are finding pieces of your already busy lives to devote to the Regional Issues Forum.
Thank you. Thanks for the support.
Member Konzioka?
Thank you, Chair Wagner. Lindsay, I just want to echo what Andy said, and we appreciate you stepping into the chair position on short notice, and you have our support, and we know that you and the rest of the RIF team will do a terrific job in moving forward on your agendas, and we appreciate that Scott has agreed to become the vice chair. So just a big thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any other hands. Again, thank you, Lindsay, and keep up the good work. You guys are, as members Campbell and Konzioka noted, and you guys are doing great work, so thank you. Okay, now we can turn to the Formation Committee on an update on the Pathways Initiative. And I will turn this over to Stacy Crowley for the introduction.
Thank you, Chair Wagner, and good afternoon, governing body members. We are pleased to have 3 members of the Formation Committee here to provide you an important update on their work. We have Kathleen Stacks, Lisa Hickey, and Jim Shetler, who will all provide updates, and then we'll open it up to questions. So I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Thanks, Stacy. And good afternoon, members of the governing body and Chair Wagner. Thanks for letting us come and provide an update. We have been busy working on all of the underlying documents to get the regional organization prepared for incorporation. So I wanted to sort of talk through some of the recent procedures and policies that we've been developing. And Lisa's gonna start and talk through our draft bylaws and certificate of incorporation. Jim's gonna talk about our board seating policy, which is also, we've been referring to as our nominating committee process. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about the stakeholder processes and the distinction between the several processes that are going on, and then a quick update on our work plan. So with that, I'll pass it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Chair Wagner and Vice Chair Campbell and members of the governing body for hearing us today. My name, as said, is Lisa Torman Hickey. I represent the independent power producers sector on the Launch Committee and Formation Committee on behalf of the Interwest Energy Alliance. We have been working on governance documents to create a corporation which will be authorized to act on behalf of the board and consistent with the public interest and the step 2 proposal that was so carefully drafted last year through our stakeholder process. I am going to talk briefly about the documents necessary to form the corporation under Delaware law and to obtain the IRS nonprofit status as a 501c3 corporation, and the bylaws, which are the most substantive document you have seen to date, which talk about the authority for each of the board members and the committees and officers to act on behalf of the corporation. So first, the certificate of incorporation will be filed with the state of Delaware to form the organization which we're proposing to call the Regional Organization for Western Energy, which would be shortened to ROE, which we thought rolls off the tongue. It will be a Delaware non-stock corporation, qualifying as a public benefit corporation. We then will separately file a Form 1023 with the Internal Revenue Service to request recognition as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. So we will be authorized under Delaware law to act and under Internal Revenue Service regulations to be considered a nonprofit corporation. Then the board adopts bylaws which specifies the broad purpose to accommodate the market governance. Some of those provisions are standard and some of them are unique to this corporation. It will provide independent governance authority for the energy markets as well as future services which states and utilities operating under the markets will voluntarily decide to ask the governing body to oversee. The bylaws discuss a range of public interest measures which are consistent with the Step 2 proposal and points to additional policies to be prepared by the board and adopted, some of which are standard, including the open meetings and records policies, and also creating committees, some of which are particular to this energy supervision, which is the energy market oversight, which is the Public Policy Committee, for example, and committees to ensure that the consumer interests are protected. The bylaws also refer to the board selection process and align with that separate document, which Kathleen will run through. Next slide, please. As you note, the purpose of the corporation is indicated to provide the independent regional governance over the voluntary energy markets, as well as future services and functions, which will be added to the market from time to time, consistent with state policies. Next slide, please. So, consistent with the Step 2 proposal, the bylaws refer to the body of state regulators, the role and provide for funding of the BOSR. It provides for the stakeholder representative committee and indicate that the board will adopt processes for that SRC to engage. The Public Policy Committee will be formed by the board, and the Consumer Advocate Organization will be formed and funded by the market and overseen by the board. The Office of Public Participation will be created, and there will be an expanded role of the market monitor. Some of that language is yet to be completed, so we have a placeholder for that provision in the bylaws. The aim is incorporated into the bylaws, indicating that the board will endeavor to reduce the overall economic cost to consumers. And the respect for state authority is incorporated into the bylaws. As you can see, the board commits itself to respecting each state's public policies including related to procurement, resource adequacy, environmental policies, reliability, and other consumer interests. This language was carefully drafted, and we are requesting stakeholder input into all of this language to ensure that it comports with the Step 2 proposal. Next slide, please. The document also, of course, includes processes for the board selection, meetings and voting, prevention of self-dealing, and establishes the role of chair and committees, officers, and maintenance of records, open meetings, consistent with the policies required of any public-facing organization and nonprofit corporations, including indemnities for board members and other provisions that you've seen in other nonprofit corporations. The bylaws will be consistent with the requirements of Delaware law. And there are a few issues that we haven't yet documented, but we will finalize these bylaws with stakeholder input, and then the board will be responsible for developing other policies to implement these overarching purposes. Next slide, please. So we're midway through the drafting processes. We've reviewed it to the formation committee, the launch committee, and now we're undergoing the stakeholder review and input process. And by January, we will be prepared to file the certificate with the state of Delaware, and the board will then adopt the bylaws to govern its internal activities, and it will be authorized to act to provide independent governance over the markets. And we will file the Form 1023 consistent with IRS requirements. Happy to take any questions.
I think I don't see any questions, and we'll probably hold till the end. Thanks, Lisa. I'll turn it back over to Jim. Seems to be eager to speak.
Yay, Jim.
Good afternoon, Chair Wagner and Vice Chair Campbell and members of the governing body. For the record, my name is Jim Schrettler. I am the General Manager for the Balancing Authority in Northern California. And I serve as a public power representative to the Pathways Launch Committee and the Formation Committee. And today I thought I'd do a little overview on where we're at with the proposal for initial board seating. The current intent is to move forward with selecting a board that we could have in place by mid next year, but no later than the end of next year. We would anticipate starting to form the nominating committee towards the end of this year, with having it fully functional by January of next year. In looking at the seating the initial board, one of the things we've discussed within the Pathways effort is trying to balance having a broad enough board to provide the function that I'll talk about a little later in working with the ISO to create the service arrangement and the tariff, while at the same time trying not to overload the budget expenditures in doing so. And we've been back and forth on this. And what we've decided is to recommend moving forward with 5 initial board members. And then with the duties of that board being, as I mentioned, to focus on negotiating the arrangement with the ISO for both the tariff and the service agreement. I want to make sure everybody is aware that this initial board will have no authority over the markets. That will require tariff change in order to implement that, and this board will not have that responsibility at that time. Next slide, please. As far as tenure, we've had some debate back and forth about the initial 5 members, their service for about 2 years, a year and a half before the board or full board is seated, and have determined that we're not going to have that initial service count against their term limits. We are looking at having an initial board. So it would be these 5 board members plus 2 others to be seated. We're thinking January of 28. And that the terms will be staggered. So at that time, come January of 28, it would be 2 seats for 1-year terms, 2 seats for 2-year terms, and 3 seats for 3-year terms. Now, there have been some concerns raised about board members being seated for a long period of time. However, we do think that the nominating committee process will make sure that board members are contributing appropriately, and that the nominating process will ensure that. We also recognize that the skills necessary to start up the organization and the skills necessary to operate the board or operate the organization for the long term will likely change over time. As someone who has served on nominating committees for WEC, for the old Peak RC, and currently for the Western Power Pool, I can say that the nominating committees do evaluate board members when their terms come up to determine whether they're the right mix and the right knowledge and skills for the effort that's facing the board. And I can say that in my past, nominating committees have not moved forward with board members for renomination. So I think there's protection in there to ensure that we are having the right people for the right time. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, 5 board members to start with. Budget is a concern, but we don't want budget to limit making sure we have the right knowledge and skills on the board. I think that's I've covered most of this already, and I think we can move on, and I'll be happy to take questions when they come. Turn it over to Kathleen.
Thanks, Jim. We wanted to take a moment, and we've been emphasizing this in some of our recent stakeholder meetings, just to talk through the different stakeholder processes that are ongoing currently up until the regional organization gets stood up, and then even beyond that, because it is a little bit confusing. There's a lot of opportunities for people to engage, which is wonderful, but they are being run by different groups and they're serving different purposes, and we want to make sure that everyone is clear on what the various pieces are and who's leading them. So as far as the regional organization goes, the launch committee and ultimately that initial RO board will continue to run all of the stakeholder processes related to the implementation of the regional organization. And so that includes the work that we've just shared with you all, as well as the work that we have between essentially now and what we're sort of looking at as January of 2028, when we anticipate that we'll have a tariff change and the authority moved over to the regional organization. So between now and then, the launch committee, again, with the RO board, will be managing those stakeholder processes. That includes essentially finalization of all of the corporate documents. It includes things like job descriptions for initial staff. It includes the stakeholder, as we continue to develop the stakeholder process for the RO. All of those pieces will be things that are run by the launch committee and the RO board. At the same time, the CAISO is going to continue to run its stakeholder processes to oversee any changes to the EIM or EDAM through policy initiatives, because the CAISO still has authority over those, or the governing body, with ultimately the CAISO board has authority over the EIM and EDAM until that authority change happens in 2028. The other key thing that the CAISO is going to be running the stakeholder process for is the change to the CAISO tariff that ultimately implements this transfer of authority to the RO, because again, it is still the CAISO tariff. So the CAISO will run that stakeholder process. The launch committee and the RO board will support. We will, engage with our stakeholders as well to encourage participation, but ultimately that's a CAISO stakeholder process. And then the RIF will continue to work on its own enhancements process, and looking forward to working with Lindsay over the coming couple of years to align our processes with the launch committee and the RIF to ensure that we are developing those things in parallel, and that we are having two complementary processes. So I wanted to just sort of outline those distinct stakeholder processes, because I think there has been some confusion amongst some stakeholders about who's running which piece. So with that, I think the last thing we wanted to cover was just an update on our work plan. So at this point, we developed a process for creating a formation board, which was something that was necessary for us to do for our application for our nonprofit status with the IRS. Jim walked through our nominating committee process / board selection policy. So that has been something that we've been continuing to update as we've been developing other documents. We have developed our initial budget, and we're starting our fundraising for this next phase. We have extended our corporate document development a bit, but are now on track still to get this done by the end of the year so that we are poised to file our application with the IRS and our incorporation documents at the beginning of 2026. We are also working with stakeholders on developing a scope of work for the Office of Public Participation. This is a really department within the RO. It's not something separate, it's within the RO. But it was a really important part of the final proposal, so we want to make sure that we've got a lot of opportunity for input on that piece. And then we'll continue over the course of the next couple of years to continue to refine our stakeholder process and make sure that we are ready to launch that fully as we go into the full authority for the regional organization. So with that, I know Lisa and Jim are also prepared to take any questions. And thank you again for giving us the opportunity.
Thanks, Kathleen. I'll turn to governing body members for any comments or questions. Okay. Not seeing any. We can turn to public comment. Silas, can you give direction on how to make public comment?
If you would like to make a public comment, you can please press the raise hand icon at the bottom center of your Zoom screen, or if you're dialed into the phone only line, you can press #2 on your telephone keypad. Okay, at this time, I'm not seeing any hands up in the comment queue.
Thank you, Silas. Again, thank you to the launch committee team, Kathleen, Jim, Lisa. I know you guys are working like crazy. Oh, I see Vice Chair Campbell has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Chair Wagner. Yeah, just thanks to y'all for presenting this update. I really appreciate the coordination you're doing, the Regional Issues Forum. We just received an update from them, but I think they're doing great work on the stakeholder process that's largely aligned with, I think, where the Pathways effort wants to go. So thank you for continuing to be in communication with the folks involved with that effort.
Okay, anybody else? No. All right, thank you, launch committee. I know you're probably feeling a little anxious, so hang in there. Good luck. I can't wait to see how this week ends on a very positive note. So thanks again for joining us in the update.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have a briefing on the benefits update for the Western energy markets, or energy imbalance market, I should say. And I will turn it over to Anna McKenna, who I think is the little tiny person at a table at the ISO auditorium. So turning over to you.
Thank you, Chair Wagner. I am the little tiny person sitting next to the other little tiny person here at the table. I have the pleasure of introducing Guillermo Bautista Alderete today. He has some good news to share on the second quarter benefits of the Western energy imbalance market. Guillermo is our Director of Market Performance and Advanced Analytics, and he and his team are the crew that produce these benefits on a regular basis. Well, they produce the study that shows the benefits on a regular basis. Thank you, Guillermo. Take us away.
Thank you, Anna. Chair Wagner, Vice Chair Campbell, members of the governing body, thank you and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here to present the update for the benefits of the second quarter of 2025. Next slide, please. For the second quarter of 2025, we have a total benefit of $420.4 million. And this is distributed across the 22 balancing areas across the 3 months of the quarter. As you can see through the pattern, the benefits accrue in a very dynamic fashion. They change entity by entity, month by month. But overall, there are 3 main drivers for how the benefits accrue in the Western energy imbalance market. One of those is, no doubt, the footprint of the market. We have 23 balancing areas, which allows the market to access low-cost supply by means of the transfers. The more area we have in the market footprint, the more diversity in fuel and geographical diversity is going to happen. The enabler of that benefit is reduced to the economic transfers. By having all these balancing areas as part of the market, there are many permutations of possible trades between different balancing areas that realize in the economic transfers of the market. When we have a new entity joining the market, for instance, there are 2 main consequences. The first one is that we gain additional transfer capability by means of the new entity onboarded. But there is also a compounding effect, and that is the new entity also enables other type of transfers among neighboring balancing areas. It creates this type of compounding effect. All in all, what we have here with 23 balancing areas in the market is that we have all this mesh integrated system that allows a centralized market to take the value of every single available supply in the system to meet the load at the least cost. The last component that quantifies the benefits reduces to what we call the displacement of high value energy. Yes, the transfers are going to enable the benefits, but the energy that is being displaced by the transfers is really what defines the level of the benefits. When an economic, cheaper transfer is coming to help meet the supply in a local area, the displaced, more expensive generation in that local area is going to really define the magnitude of the economic benefits. Next slide, please. If we look back since the inception of the Western energy imbalance market, as of now, the second quarter of 2025, we have a total benefits accrue at the value of $7.41 billion. It has been an increasing trend since effectively early 2023 when we reached the critical mass of the number of participating entities in the market. And this is a very straight picture of how meaningful the benefits are realized by the participating entities in the centralized market. Since early 2023, you can see that on average, the benefits have accrued over $1 million per year. And that is a steady trend that we have seen for the last 3 years. Next slide, please. The main enabler for the economic benefits is, with no doubt, the transfer capabilities that exist in the Western energy imbalance market. This is a very typical illustration we have used in the past to reference how that transfer capability realizes in the market. For illustration, what we have here is a flow diagram. On the left-hand side, we have the balancing areas that are exporting power. Is power coming out of these areas? On the right-hand side, we have the areas that are receiving the power. They are importing the power. And effectively, every stream flow that you see between these two sides of the flow quantifies the volume of the transfer that realized in every possible permutation between balancing areas. The fact that this graph is very busy with that many flows is actually a testament of how effective a centralized real-time market is able to find every possible permutation of transfer capabilities between the adjacent areas. It is a centralized market that enables us to be able to move supply from one corner of the market to be able to meet demand where it's needed the most, potentially in the other corner of the market. On the right-hand side, we have the total cumulative transfer in volume in either import or export direction for the total quarter. Naturally, you can see that in this quarter specifically, the CAISO area has quite a significant level of exports. Now, put in perspective, this is the second quarter of the year. This is typically the time of the year when we have moderate level of demand in the CAISO area, and we're coming with full production of renewable resources. It's the perfect combination to have plenty of supply that can be traded with the transfers in the energy imbalance market. And correspondingly, the other side of the equation would be the entities that can take advantage of that energy available in the system. Next slide, please. For a historical reference, here we have a trend of the volume of the transfers that we have seen for the real-time market over the last few years. It started very low with the transactions happening effectively between PAC and the CAISO balancing area when we launched the market in 2014. And as we have integrated additional areas, we can see how the volume of transfers have increased accordingly. On the upper part of the plot, there is a reference of the entities that joined at different points in time the energy market. And you can see the boost of the transfer increasing by the time every entity is added to the market. Next slide, please. Changing topics now relating to prices. We keep track of the prices. This is a very simple illustration and pattern of the prices in the real-time market. We organized the different area prices by the regions of the market. We have the Pacific Northwest, the Central Mountain, the California area, and also the Southwest. These are depicted with the different bars. And it shows the trend. Typically, you are going to see seasonal patterns. On top of that, we also have as a reference bilateral power prices that are transacted in two main hubs. One is the Mid-Sea to reflect transactions in the northern part of the West, and also the Palo Verde bilateral price to reflect transactions in the southern part of the system. And that allows you to track how the real-time prices of the EIM compared to the bilateral transactions outside the market. Overall, you are going to see that the energy prices in the Western energy balance market trend lower than the bilateral prices. You can also see some seasonality patterns. For instance, as we get into the deep of the summer, prices naturally tend to increase just because now we have higher levels of demand to meet. Next slide, please. Going more granular for the second quarter, this is a breakdown of the monthly average prices for every balancing area that is participating in the energy imbalance market. They are color-coded, and we have one per month. We also superimpose as a reference the bilateral prices for Mid-Sea, Palo Verde, and COP. Overall, you are going to see that there is an increasing trend. It's a moderate trend because as we get into the summer, there is more pressure upward pressure to the prices given that we have higher levels of demand. With the summer that we experienced in this year, they have been moderate to some extent. Now, you may notice also that there are variations between different balancing areas. That variation is price separation. And that price separation happens mainly because of either transfers reach the limitation or because there is internal congestion in a given balancing area. There is one trend that is important to highlight here. In the month of June, you can see that there is one area that observe a price much higher than the rest of the system, and that happens to be the Pacific Northwest. This is a price separation in the Pacific Northwest mainly because of internal congestion to that area. Now, keep in mind, these are averages for the month. That doesn't mean that for the whole month there was a high price in every single day. A few days with higher prices tend to skew the monthly average, and that is the case for this pattern. Next slide, please. The last topic is a feature that we have available in the real-time market, and that is a feature that was developed in partnership with the balancing areas participating in the real-time market. We call this the Assistant Energy Transfer Program. It is a program that enables entities that may have failed the resource efficiency evaluation to still get access in real time to additional transfers if they are in a tight situation. In order to participate in this program, entities have to explicitly opt into the program. And once they are in the market and opted in, if there are events where they fail the resource efficiency evaluation, this program is going to trigger and is going to still allow transfers to occur for that area in need. The information is gathered in two dimensions. The first one is the boxes in colors. Each box with a different color is for a specific balancing area that opted in for the program. This is on a daily basis. And we also have black dots. These are the days in which the entity failed the resource efficiency evaluation. The ideal scenario here is where an entity opted in, there is a box in color, and also failed the resource efficiency evaluation because it means it's taking advantage of participating in that program and it was useful to be opting in for that program. We started light in May, is prior to the summer conditions with about 5 balancing areas opting in for the program. As we got deeper into the summer, the participation increased to 10 different balancing areas opting in for the program. Next slide. The last slide is about the cost for participating in this program. Once an entity has opted in, they failed the resource efficiency evaluation, there is the possibility now that there will be transfers happening for that balancing area and they come with a cost. This is a trend that shows what is the total cost for participating in that program as an aggregate for all the balancing areas that were opting in and that failed the test. Overall, it's a relatively modest cost for participation in this program during the summer, not surprisingly, given the mild conditions that we experienced in the summer. This is all the information we have for this briefing. This concludes my update. I will be glad to take on any questions.
Thank you.
And before we get to questions, this is Anna. I just would like to offer, I think, a clarification with regards to the prices. I think the price, the higher price that was experienced was in the Public Service Company of New Mexico area, not in the Pacific Northwest. Is that
Yes.
right, Guillermo?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that was clear because the slide said one thing and your comment had said something different. I just wanted to make sure for the audience, everybody.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guillermo. Thanks, Anna. Questions from the governing body? Member Decker?
I don't necessarily have a question, but Guillermo, the way you went through the slides today, spending a little bit more time and really highlighting the benefits, particularly in the first 4 or 5 slides, really great job. I really appreciate that. I think one thing for people that are listening in onto our meetings, I think these slides are just a great example of demonstrating the value, where the value is showing up, how the value is moving around. And I really appreciate, again, Guillermo, the way you went through that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments and questions from governing body? And let's turn it over to Silas for public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, you can please press the raise hand icon at the bottom center of your Zoom screen or #2 if you're dialed into the phone line. At this time, there are no hands up in the comment queue.
Thank you, Silas. Thank you, Guillermo. Always appreciate your good news updates. And the visualization is always very helpful. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Turn it back to Anna McKenna to introduce our next item, which we're referring to as policy hot topics. I don't know if the ISO's put together like a red hot seat for but I'll turn it to you, Anna, to get us started.
Well, thank you, Chair Wagner. And yes, we do have a special seat, and we'll make sure that the top of it is red henceforth. I think that's a good idea. I have the pleasure of introducing Becky Robinson, our Director of Market Policy Development, and she will be sharing with you some notes on the hot topics. But I did want to take just one moment on a little bit of change in format in this briefing. We normally go through all the initiatives underway, and we are changing the format a little bit because henceforth we would like to give a little bit more time on spotlight moments. We refer to those spotlight moments as specific stakeholder initiatives that are currently underway, where we'll have the opportunity to take a little bit of a deeper dive on what's being discussed, what are the main topics, what are the tough questions the stakeholders are in the process of resolving. And one of the features we've been trying to integrate is having stakeholders come during these spotlight moments to give you their perspective, their thoughts, and reflections upon, as the policy is in development. Well, I'm happy to say that we're taking, these efforts to do that. For this meeting, we don't have a spotlight moment, and that's because we didn't have a topic that was ripe for that. But there will be some coming up in the upcoming meetings, and I just wanted to share that with you all and with stakeholders, so you can all look out for those opportunities in the upcoming meetings, governing body meetings. And with that, I will ask that Becky provide us. Oh, and by the way, I did want to mention that although we don't plan on going through every slide as we normally do on the the policy updates, you do have in front of you an informational report with the slides. It gives you an update where each initiative is. If you would like to look at that, you may. And if you have any questions, we're always happy to answer them. And with that, I will ask Becky to take us through our hot topics.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Chair Wagner, Vice Chair Campbell, and members of the governing body. As Anna said, I'm here today to provide an update on market policy in our new format. So, right, you do have the usual slide deck that we have. And as Anna mentioned, happy to take any questions on that. But I will kind of focus on highlighting what's coming up on the near-term horizon, and then I can take questions on any of the initiatives. But first, I did want to linger just a little bit more on on the recent good news that others have highlighted earlier in the meeting today, just to kind of connect that to the fact that we have spoken earlier on this matter. So we got, right before Labor Day weekend, 3 orders from FERC accepting filings related to EDAM. 2 of those were accepting PacifiCorp and Portland General Electric's open access transmission tariff filings for the changes that they need to make as transmission service providers to implement EDAM. And the other of those 3 orders accepted our allocation proposal And so you'll recall not that long ago, just earlier this year, and in response to issues raised in the PacifiCorp EDAM tariff filing, we started an expedited stakeholder initiative on congestion revenue allocation among EDAM BAs to discuss and evaluate the question, again, raised in that PacifiCorp docket of what firm transmission rights in the OAT context will mean at the onset of EDAM from a congestion cost perspective. And through collaboration with stakeholders, we arrived at a proposal to change that allocation of congestion revenues among BAs. And we brought that to you and the Board of Governors for approval just in June this year. And that change was that, provides that, firm transmission rights holders have an opportunity to use their firm transmission rights without congestion cost exposure at the onset of EDAM. And so at that June meeting, we had a good discussion, a robust involvement and engagement from you all, and I appreciate that. And we also had involvement from the Market Surveillance Committee and the Western Energy Markets market expert. And after approval from you all, we took that to FERC for approval, where, again, there were robust comments from stakeholders, significant support, perhaps a testament to the good stakeholder process around that, although that support was not unanimous, of course. But so we were very pleased to see the FERC order cleanly accepting our proposal, which positions us well to get EDAM up and running. And I just wanted to say thank you for your support and engagement on this item, and thank you to stakeholders for the same. And together, we were able to deliver on this item, to do so in a timely way, and to ensure that we're able to move forward with this foundationally important endeavor of broadening electricity market participation in the West. And as for next steps on that, we will continue our plan for analysis and monitoring in this area, which my colleague Guillermo, we just heard from, is leading, and which we put together based on feedback from the Market Surveillance Committee and market expert. And we will also continue the plan to reconvene stakeholders on this topic later this year to discuss longer-term design in this area. And so with that, I will now shift to what's coming up on the near-term horizon. So at our October meeting, at the end of next month, we are preparing several items that we plan to bring for various reasons at those October briefings. So the first of those is on gas resource management. And this is an initiative that's been sort of ongoing for a period of time, where we've set out to determine, what parts of our market design may limit the ability for gas resources participating in either the EIM today or in the EDAM once we get that up and running next year. What may limit their ability to accurately reflect their gas costs and availability. And we've been working with stakeholders. We had a spotlight item on this topic earlier this year with you all, where we heard as well from NV Energy. And I'm glad to say that stakeholder initiative has been progressing, and the ISO staff and working group stakeholders have arrived at and are working on refining and iterating a proposal around 3 groups of enhancements. And we are working towards, again, pending continued stakeholder feedback, and continued refinements, potentially having that as a decisional item for you at the October meeting. And so these enhancements would be in 3 general buckets. The first of those is changes to the day-ahead advisory market runs. So the market runs we actually do before the day-ahead market runs, so that we are providing good information to market participants that they can have when they are transacting for gas, potentially in advance of the day-ahead market. And we want to make sure that that information is as accurate as it can be, and so it can help them inform their fuel procurement decisions. The second bucket there are additional options for cost inputs, adjustments, and cost recovery to better accommodate unique supply arrangements and exceptional circumstances such as extreme weather. And then the third bucket would be additional options for managing a resource's gas system limitations, potentially leveraging existing functionality, which is reserved for or sort of reliability situations like what we've seen in the past around Aliso Canyon, but making sure that if there's a reliability situation elsewhere in the footprint, that that is an available tool available there. So that is the first item that we are bringing for October. And again, we are thinking that that may be, we may be able to have a decision to tee up for you at that time. The second item that we would be bringing is on GHG coordination. And this would not be a decisional item, but it would be sort of a wrap-up presentation to share where we are landing on the final proposal and where the course of the stakeholder input and policy development has gotten us to. It's just that it's non-decisional in the sense that we don't need a tariff change to be able to produce the reports that we've been working with stakeholders to fashion. But so this, the approach that we've been working on there is designed to, is sort of an ongoing evolution of the design of GHG emissions accounting to support market participants' compliance with state, local, or corporate GHG reduction targets, but where those may not include a price on emissions. So the approach in that report will overlay both ownership and contract data, overlay that on top of market dispatch results to produce data that will allow reporting entities to see and understand the emissions intensity of their portfolio, of what's needed to serve their load based on resources they own or contract for, as well as potentially market purchases. And so this overall, this data will increase the transparency of GHG emissions in both the energy imbalance market and in the extended day-ahead market footprint. So that is the second item that we would be bringing you in the October meeting. I also want to note that there are two items related to resource adequacy that we plan to bring for decision in October to the ISO Board of Governors. Those have to do with Track 1 NRA on the default rules in our tariff on capacity accreditation and planning reserve margins, as well as on Track 3, a slice of Track 3 that has to do with visibility to the ISO of resources that are located within the CAISO balancing area, but which are not shown for resource adequacy as part of our regular RA resource adequacy processes. So I know those are not, those will not be items that we were bringing to the governing body for consideration, but did just want to provide transparency that we are planning to bring those to the ISO Board of Governors next month. And with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Becky. Questions, comments from the governing body? Okay. Did not see that coming. And let's turn it over to Silas for public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, you can please press the raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or you can press #2 if you're dialed in with the phone only line. At this time, we do not have any hands up in the comment queue.
Thank you, Silas. So Becky, your first time through, you're off the hot seat, no questions or comments. Thank you for flagging what's coming up in October. As someone who overly plans everything, I like to know what's coming next. So appreciate the update. Next item we have is I'm going to pause. Member Konzioka? You're muted.
I was getting ahead of you. I'm waiting for you to get to the next item.
Oh, okay. Okay, next item is opportunity for governing body to ask questions on any of the informational reports, and then we'll turn it to public comment on this topic as well. So, Member Konzioka?
Thank you, Chair Wagner. Since we're ahead of schedule, I thought I would take the time. I do have one question. I'm hoping Guillermo is still there. And is he? I guess that will be my first question.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. I do have a question on your market performance update. And on page 2, you have a slide that presents a comparison of the forward market, the 15-minute market, and the real-time market. And you show that it seems to be having some really strong convergence over a long period of time. And, in the past, we've seen some discrepancies, or when I say discrepancy, larger differences between those three. And my question to you is are you seeing a strong trend towards the convergence of those three? And if what may be accounting for if that is correct, what we're seeing that is driving that outcome?
Okay, thank you for the question, Anton. I have to mentally remember the slide I didn't have in front of me. uh, and you are pointing to a very key component of the market construct. One of the aims of a market is that we have the different submarkets to converge. It's a healthy trend to be able to see that the day-ahead market is tracking close to the real time. And we have implemented many different items in the past to help that convergence to happen. One of the features, for instance, of the market construct is to have convergence bits to be able to enable that conversion to happen, because there is always inherent differences between day ahead and real time. There are other factors that are more dynamic, more system-driven, such as congestion, right? Sometimes the congestion may push the prices in one way or the other. We also have dedicated efforts to ensure that we aligned the process, the actions that are taken in the day ahead or the real-time market to follow one to another. For instance, when we have conditions in the transmission system that require action from the real-time market, we tend to target those changes to be reflected in the day-ahead market. Our main goal is always to try to align the markets, and the prices should be a reflection of that alignment. I may have to take more homework with me to see if there are any other economics drivers that may be driven the convergence that you are pointing more recently. But it's a good thing to have overall. It's a very good, healthy signal of a market to have a close convergence of the market.
Guillermo, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I recognize that the graph is a consolidation of a lot of data, and it's there's a lot of averaging going on. But it seemed to me to be a very good sign to see convergence of the three over a long period of time. And that just seemed like to be excellent results. And I know in the past we've talked about some of the differences, and it seems that, but by looking at that data that your staff has presented, it's moving us, and we are in the right direction.
Yes, it's encouraging to see the trend.
Chair Wagner, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Konzioka. Other members of the governing body? Comments or questions? Okay, we'll turn it back to Silas to see if we have any public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand icon on Zoom or #2 on your telephone keypad. At this time, there are no hands up in the queue.
Thank you, Silas. We'll take a moment for future agenda items. Anyone from the governing body have any suggestions? Okay. I will note that the RIF upcoming public meeting will be October 27th. Registration is now available. I checked my email during the break, and we can all start signing up for RIF. I encourage folks to attend and then stick around the next day for our governing body meeting. With that, I thank everybody for your time, attendance, and attention today. Obviously, mine is failing at this point. And we look forward to seeing and hearing from you in the future. We are adjourned.